So everyone, welcome to another interview with Wealthfare. Today we have someone very special, someone who we think has probably the most interesting startup in the Indian ecosystem, the most interesting business in the Indian ecosystem. We have with us the founder of AstroTalk, Mr. Puneet Gupta. So welcome and thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Thank you so much for having me here.
All right. So I'm going to get straight to it. First of all, can you tell us a little bit about what AstroTalk does and what it is as a business?
Okay, so what we have tried to do with AstroTalk is to keep everything very simple. We we know in India everyone goes to an astrologer for Kundli Milan or checking their horoscope or for marriage related issues. So what we have done, we have just brought that thing online. So without doing too much into the product, we have kept it really simple. You recharge and talk to an astrologer directly, and it's an instant gratification. So you don't have to wait, you don't have to take an appointment. You just come, you see a list of astrologers, you can talk to anyone over call or chat. So that's what we have done. And secondly, about this business and this industry, so there was taboo is already there, but the biggest issue with this industry was that so there were a lot of companies which were there before us, but the problem was the trust factor was not there. So we could not trust those companies as yeah, noise aa raha hai which is it?
No, sir. It's fine.
Sorry. So the problem with those companies was we could not trust them because there were a lot of bad things happening there. So let's say a customer comes to their app and there was some bad experience which he goes through. Company would not do a refund or do anything to do anything for the customer. So they were like कि जो लाला होते हैं ना, they want to earn anything and everything right now, and they don't understand the value of the customer and the value which the company creates. So that is one thing which was really missing from this industry, and we have not done anything extraordinary, just that we brought that into the ecosystem, and then everything just fell together.
So what's extraordinary really for us, what's really fascinating about the company is that this business combines astrology, which is supposed to be one of the oldest practices in India, with technology which literally represents modern times, and it brings even older practices into the modern times. So how difficult was creating that integration between technology and something as old practiced as astrology?
So I think technology-wise, if we see, we have not done anything extraordinary. Again, so it is like a simple interface, which is like very simple to use. So I often, come across this question that your app doesn't have a lot of designs. The homepage is very blank, and there are big buttons. So I don't talk much about it. But when we started this product, I literally did it deliberately. So I kept the buttons like big buttons so that it is so easy to understand. As we understand, like the people who are going to use it, they would be traditional from the traditional background. They have been reaching out to astrologers, and so we want to give a very simple product. So technology has been used to just bring offline thing to online, and we have not done anything other than that. If you look
Right.
at the product, so the simplicity is actually winning the market.
Great, so very well said. The next question is, AstroTalk is a very unique business. So for such a unique business, the face of the team is not a working team or a back-end team. It's the astrologers. They are the face of the team. So
Yeah.
how do you ensure that the astrologers keep the brand experience great for the consumers? How does that happen?
Hmm. So this is actually one thing where we spend a lot of time, and this has been the strength of the company. So what we do here is, so we understand the kind of customer which comes to us is going through some stress, right? They are in some stress, maybe in personal life or in career or anything, and we all know whenever we are in stress, we kind of may not talk to other people nicely. And in India, if a customer is paying something, they actually kind of think that they have owned the other person. So what happens is, like, if a new customer comes to our app, they kind of talk badly to an astrologer sometimes in the beginning. So it is really important to win their trust and not tell them anything bad in return. So in this segment, astrologers are very egoistic. Their ego is very high. very high, and they think like they are superhuman. So we have tried to take that ego part out of their mind. So when we do the hiring, we ensure that this part is not there. So we put them through stress interviews, wherein we tell them that whatever you have told is not right. The other astrologer is much better than you. We don't like you. So we do all those things just to see how they react, and are they able to convince with their answer? If not, we would not hire them. So that is the first thing we do. And then the second thing is, like, if we are working in this astrology industry, the prediction has to be true, or as much accurate as we can. So then we make them go through 2 case studies. They go through 2 interview rounds. So let's say I'm taking an interview, I'll probably share my chart with them and ask about my past. So for the last 5 years, I'll ask him what all I have gone through. So they could be answer related to marriage, career, love and relationship. Could be anything, but it has to be related to the past. And if it comes accurate more than 70%, then only they go through the round. Otherwise, they are rejected there. So this is the second round of interview which they go through, and the third round is the technical round. So wherein an astrologer talks to that astrologer and they ask everything about astrology. So once that is done, then they come to they get a permission to come to a panel. So it's not easy to get a registration on AstroTalk. We do get maybe like 30-40 requests per day from different astrologers to get registered, but we could hardly hire 1 or 2 a day. And once this is done, so it doesn't stop here. So then there are a few training rounds. So there are 3 videos which they have to see first. Each video is around 20 or 30 minutes. They have to see and experience how they have to use their astrologer app, how it works. That's the first video, and the second video talks about how they have to talk to the customer, basic soft skills. And third actually talks about different problems which will come from customers, how to tackle those problems. So once that is done, then they get a profile on the app. They go through a testing round. Then a few of our representatives talk to them as customers, give them the assurance, you're doing well, and then we make them live. So it's a huge process. We do a lot of investment of time, in hiring astrologers, because as you said, this is the face of the company.
Quite remarkable. Quite remarkable.
So that process that you just spoke about is incredibly exhaustive. You'd be really assured, if you heard about this process, you'd be assured that, okay, if nothing, at least there's the highest chance of getting the best astrologer on this platform. But that's the service providing side. I want to talk a little bit about the client side of things now. For any company, it's incredibly important to collect feedback from their clients. But usually in most companies, that feedback is probably subjective still, though, but people focus on the service and the technology because the product isn't that emotional. This is one product where it's just too close to home, right? It's very emotional. So, like you said, right, many customers aren't in their good phase when they're looking out for this service. So, how do you filter relevant feedback? Because many times it might not be the company's fault, it's just that someone didn't like the reading that they got. So, they leave a negative feedback for you. So, how do you filter between the relevant feedback and the feedback between just a disgruntled customer, probably?
Okay, so I'll divide it into 2 questions. One is, how do we take customer feedback, and the second about negative reviews or negative reviews to astrologers or to the app. So first part is, so it's been more than 3 years now of founding AstroTalk, and the initial 1 year I spent on talking to astrologers and customers. So my full-time job was to talk to these people and understand about the market, because I had no experience in astrology. I am not an astrologer myself, and I used to hate astrology back then. And because of one prediction, I kind of thought like, this is something. It is not just uh, people giving fake predictions and making money. It's actually much more than that. So I spoke to so many customers, I collected their feedback, and we worked on it. And that's the process we are following till date. So we have a CX team. CX is the customer experience team, which talks to as many customers as we can. And we ask questions like, why aren't you using the app that much? And if someone is using a lot, we ask them this question, why are you using this much? What's the reason behind you taking so many sessions, talking to the same astrologer again and again, talking to so many astrologers? We want all the answers. And people are, more than happy to talk about it because they are emotionally invested in the product, as you rightly asked. So it is not just, another app. It is something which is very emotionally involved with the customers. So they are very happy, in telling everything. They tell us a number of things which are good and a number of things which are bad, and then we work on it. So then it goes to the product team. We ensure that we filter all those feedbacks out. Obviously, all of them are not relevant, but anything which is relevant and is passed by our team, then we work on it. So this is how the product team works. Coming to the second part of the question about, if someone gets a negative prediction, how do we take care of that review? So we have a policy here. So it's actually a very relevant question. I don't know how you came up with this. So we actually face a lot of this issue internally, that the astrologers, they come to us. So we had a few meetings with the astrologer. They told me that they are not able to tell everything correctly. So if there is a negative prediction, they cannot tell the customer because he gives a negative review. So what are we going to do? So either you help us out in this, otherwise we cannot give them the true prediction. So then we kind of, gave them that assurance that you tell them what is right, and it doesn't matter whether the prediction is negative or positive, right? And if they give you a review on the basis of negative prediction, you have the facility to flag that thing to us, and then the team will take care of it. Either team will reach out to the customer and ask them to delete the review, or if it falls under policy violation, then we delete the review, right? And coming to the negative prediction part of it, so what we tell them is, so if there is a question whether I'll get married to this girl or not, and the prediction, let's say, is negative, no, right? So instead of just telling ki shadi nahi hogi isse, what they tell you is, what we can see from a chart is like, the chart is really good as in terms of marriage. You'll get married after 2 years, and the girl or the guy would be so and so. We tell a number of, positive things, and then answer the question directly with a negative prediction. So we don't want people to lose hope, because we understand it is not just the astrology consultation thing. It is counseling at best. So we don't want to demotivate our customers, whoever comes here. We want to tell them something positive, which is also right from the chart.
Right.
That's very interesting.
So we talked about two things. You talked us through the process of selecting an astrologer to come on the panel and come on the platform. And you also talked about the feedback, the positive and the negative feedback. Kab kaise kya dena. So let's combine these two factors. My question is that how is the feedback for every individual astrologer judged? And how does AstroTalk ensure that only the best astrologers get to be a part of the platform?
All right. So I think I missed something in the beginning. So in the hiring process, I told you till the time they get onboarded, but I didn't tell you what happens after that. All right. So the first 15 days, they are monitored closely. We track each and everything what they do, and we also talk to the customers and ask them kaisa laga. So we kind of ensure ki we know what is happening, and then we give them some feedback every day. So every day for the first 15 days, we keep giving them feedback. So if there is some scope of improvement, we make sure they improve, right? And after 15 days, our system kicks in. So what our system does is, so internally, we don't take care of ratings. So we think rating is a flawed concept. We have to do it as per market standards to show to the customer, but we don't consider rating as a factor. So what we do is, we see that a customer who spoke to this astrologer on day one, is he coming back again? Right? So we have a very high repeat rate. We are having a repeat rate of 14 annually. So a customer who uses IF once, he kind of uses it 14 times a year. So if he's not talking to this same astrologer for the next 15 days, then there is an issue, right? And we have a metric to track this thing, how many customers are repeating with the same astrologer, and for how long are they talking, right? And on the basis of that, so there is an internal algorithm. It gives them a universal rating point. So it has to be in certain levels. So then we have defined like level 1, 2, 3, and 4. So level 1 is like the cream astrologers. Level 2 is like the need improvement. Level 3 is we give them a warning that either you improve or we will have to clear you from the system. And anyone who falls under level 4, we just remove him from the platform. And it updates every day. So every night the system, collates the data for that day also. It combines with the previous data and then updates. And it's not like if an astrologer who has done very good in the first 30 days and then he starts doing bad, again, so the system will kind of ensure that how much positive and negative it is getting from the previous average. And then if anyone goes down, it is again highlighted to the team. So we have a quality team, which is almost equivalent to the size of a sport team. And they ensure each and every part of it.
Right. Quite
So,
effective.
so like you said, you did say that the customer facing site is very simple. What I've understood from now is that to get that simplicity across, the complexity at the back end is massive. And
Yeah, correct.
that also takes me to a very interesting part about probably the future of AstroTalk or something like that. I heard you talk about, the main issue is that, there are people there showing their kundlis for marriage, and what
Mm-hmm.
happens when someone says no, and that might not be a good idea. So is there any sort of thought with AstroTalk in the future, considering that the Indian matchmaking industry is this multi-billion dollar industry? Is there
Mm-hmm.
anything that AstroTalk is trying to do to maybe, be a value added feature in these matrimonial websites where you can fit? And we did a lot of research about it. None of us are the age for it, but we did a lot of research about it, that you can filter by if you're manglik or not nowadays in these matrimonial sites. But what you can't filter by is matching the values of the kundli beforehand. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
matching kundlis is usually the second step. And if someone likes someone and then that kundli doesn't match, for families that are really concerned about the kundli, the entire marriage breaks through. So can AstroTalk step in to be the first step instead of the second step, where you can simply filter by kundli, which means that
Mm-hmm.
whoever you talk to, your kundli has already matched, so that doesn't lead to that disappointment on the second
Mm-hmm.
step. So are you focusing on trying to be that first step?
Well, we have thought about, so we have thought about getting into this part of the business also. Uh, as you said, like this is something which we can do much better than others. But we have till now, not given a lot of stress into our Kundli software. So we have recently started working on it. So till now, we were using third-party APIs for the free Kundli which we provide to our customers as well as students. So in the last 6 months, we have worked and created our own software for this. And in that also, we realized like there are so many issues with other software. They are not considering leap years and small things, and the chart was coming different. So we have just started working on it. So it's a long shot for us right now. So we don't want to just step into it because we have data of a lot of girls and boys who want to get married, and just telling them all those things. We want to do a lot of research into only software and then come up with something like this. So this is not the right time wherein we would think about doing this. But yes, actually it could be a game changer, because I have been using Jeevan Sathi and other apps, and it is actually a lot of time consuming, and nothing comes out of it. So I kind of spoke to a lot of girls, and sometimes our frequency doesn't match, and then you have to meet also. You have to meet that person and then see how it goes. It consumes a lot of time, and ultimately you end up going with no one. And I've spent around 1.5 2 years on that, and still couldn't find anyone. So I think that industry also needs a change. Astrology could be one point of view with which you can try it out, but till now I think it's a long shot.
Right. So one of the most interesting aspects of AstroTalk is that the users can connect from their phone, can connect from the comfort of their homes without actually stepping out. And
Hmm.
in one of your interviews, you had mentioned that people of India basically have this taboo that they don't want to tell others ki I am going to a Jyotish, I'm going to an astrologer. So how
Hmm.
does this factor play a positive role for AstroTalk?
It actually doesn't. So in that post I also mentioned that female audience is not considering it a taboo. So they actually refer to their friends, but male audience doesn't. So from female point of view, we are getting referrals. So one astrologer once told me that there's this customer named so and so, and she referred me more than 15 customers. She told everyone in her circle, and maybe in her family also, and everyone went to that astrologer and told that girl told me to talk to you. So that way we have seen, and even we track sometimes, and we have seen female audience are referring, but males aren't. So what happens in this kind of a scenario? Like we have to invest heavily on paid marketing. So the kind of value we are creating in the market, we should be getting a lot of organic customers. We do get organic customers, but then they come through even from Google search, or they search the app on Play Store. We rank high because of the number of audience we have, but we do not get it from referral. So if I'm helping you out, an ideal scenario for you would be, you will tell everyone, you'll tell all your friends, but in this case you won't.
Right.
So we are not getting the fruit of that, the value we are creating, we are not getting that much fruit. But obviously then if we keep marketing, the acquiring customer is not that difficult.
Now, of course, you mentioned data, and no doubt data is the gold for any single company. And we've seen this across interviews. I think we've always asked a question on data because this is something that is relevant to every single company. One very important factor about this data, especially in this sort of business, is, are you worried that seeking the opinions of astrologers as a concept may dwindle in the future, or do you think by what you've seen now in the 3 years of your company running is that even the newer generation, this thing hasn't changed, hasn't they still seek the opinion of astrologers? So what do you think that trend will look like maybe 10 years down the line?
Okay. So when I started AstroTalk, I thought our audience would be 35 plus years of age. And I was damn sure like people below 35 would not, come to our app and use it. Today, if I check my data, all the customers are in the age group of 25-35. 90% of the revenue comes from this age group. And this age group is basically, which is, which are going through either love and relationship issues or marriage issues. So it could be pre-marriage, marriage, or post-marriage, right? So what we have learned from here is, it is not just astrology. So what happens in India is, all of us, even you and me, during our childhood, we have been exposed to astrology somehow. किसी की कुंडली मिलान हो रहा था, किसी की शादी हो रही थी, वहां पे बात हो रही थी. Even when we were born, our parents, went to some astrologer and asked about us. So we have been exposed to astrology. So for us, for AstroTalk, we don't have to invest much in, educating our customers. As I mentioned in the beginning of the interview, that we are not trying to do too much. We are just bringing that offline thing to online, because we don't need to do so many things. Everything is already done by, all of us. So now the question was whether, the interest in astrology would fall. I'm sure it would never happen. Why? I'll tell you. So there are two kind of issues. We go through career issues, we go through love and relationship issues. So when there is like, we are not getting a good job, what the first thing comes to your mind is, you need to work hard, right? You need to work hard to get a job, do whatever, study. There are things in your control. But when you are dating someone and the other person is not listening to you, what can you do? You cannot control other person's mind, right? And that is the time when we are most vulnerable. We need external help. We know, all of us know a lot of our friends who have gone through breakup, and they keep calling us to tell story about their partner. We don't want to listen to them, but they have to tell everyone, because they are in a vulnerable state. They won't talk to someone, seek an opinion ki kya hoga, sab kuch theek hoga ya nahi hoga, I was not wrong na, she was wrong or what. That's the time we need external help. Who is going to provide that external help? In today's world, everyone is getting busy with day, and no one. So I go through a breakup, I want to talk to someone, no one will talk to me. मेरा दोस्त एक दिन बात करेगा, 2 दिन करेगा, but I have to bitch about it for, let's say, 10-15 days, maybe 3-4 months. I need someone to talk to. And astrology is something which, as I said earlier, we have been exposed to it. And it is not just, talking to a friend and a friend telling you, okay, you can do this and that. An astrologer tells you something wherein, you also believe that he might know the future as well, right? So it gives you a lot of sense of relief and, assurance also, that whatever he is saying making sense, because whatever he told me right now, what is happening in my breakup and why the breakup happened and what happened in the past was actually correct. Probably the future would also be right. So we are, most vulnerable at that time. So we have seen the customers who are coming to our app, the first question they ask about love, relationship, or marriage. It's not that they're not asking about career, wealth, property, and everything. They do, but that's not their first question. That's not why they came to AstroTalk app, right? So they kind of get associated with love relationship issues. Once they get their comfort, then they ask about everything and anything in their life. So your question
Right.
is like, it's not going to go down. It's only going to increase.
Great. So, would it be correct to assume that astrology is like somewhat like a medicine,
Mm-hmm.
and like it gives people comfort, it gives people comfort basically, and it becomes significant in times of distress, in times of crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So, keeping that in mind, how has COVID turned out for AstroTalk? That's the question.
Yeah, so this is actually very true. We have seen it from our data that customers are not just taking predictions; they are talking to astrologers, right? So it is, like I said, it is not just astrology; it is about counseling as well. So a person would not talk to the same astrologer for 3 hours in a three hours straight. Obviously, he's not taking a lot of predictions. He's just talking about some problem, right? So talking about COVID, yes, it has added something to our business. So when the lockdown started in later part of March, we our revenue went down by 10%. Again, it happened in the month of April also, but I think around 25th of April we started gaining a lot of traction. After that, the business kept increasing. So if we talk about the exponential curve which we have, the way we have been growing, so I think we have COVID has also added maybe 5 to 10% to our business. So it has not added in a way that we have acquired new customers. As I said in the previous question, people are not acquired on the basis of anything but the relationship part. So those people only, they are asking a bit more about how COVID will impact them. So 10% of business has been added due to that. But I don't think it has helped too much in acquiring new customers.
Right.
Okay. So whatever we found out till now has been probably some of the most interesting things that we've realized. Most importantly, because when you think of any business, you can possibly group it in an industry. This is one such business where it is extremely difficult to group it into an industry. So in many ways, AstroTalk is pioneering the astrology industry into coming into a tech and modern world. So my final question to you would be, and this might sound a cliche, but still very important, is where do you see AstroTalk headed, 10 years in the future? In your ideal thought process, what would you have been willing to achieve for AstroTalk in those 10 years?
I don't know. I don't know. So, as the kind of personality I have, I don't think that long term. So, when you are doing something, and the way I have, run AstroTalk till date, I've just tried to solve problems which are coming every day instead of, thinking too much. So, as a business, we have learned that it is something which is going to stay forever, and people would like to talk to astrologers. So the major things which we need to do, we know, which we have to do again and again. One is to get the best astrologers in the industry on our portal. Second is we need to market and reach out to as many customers as we can. And the third is we have to give the best customer experience which they cannot expect from us. So I'm not saying whatever they expected we gave. We want to give them more than that so that they start loving us. So this is the process which we have to follow every day. And then, as I said, we have to take, talk to customers, take their input, and build something for them. So, as an example, I'll give you. So, a lot of customers, they would talk to astrologer, and the astrologer would suggest them gemstones or some puja, right? And we had no facility for that earlier. And so, whenever they would suggest them, they cannot sell them directly, and the customer would have to, go offline and buy that gemstone. And these customers would come to us and they tell us that we trust AstroTalk, but we don't know where to go and buy it. Like, they could be uh, fake gemstones as well. So that demand came from customers, and we built an e-commerce platform named Astro Mall inside AstroTalk, right? So it was again like the demand came and we built it, and now there's something else which we tried. Now we're working on it. We're trying to launch around New Year. So we're working on one more new product which will be launched inside AstroTalk. So the way we have been operating, it is to, talk to customers and fix their issue. We don't want to think long term because we know it is going to stay like this forever.
So what we gather is that AstroTalk is a customer-centric, customer-first company,
Yes.
and we sure hope it
Obsessed.
remains that way. We sure hope that you remain as successful as you are, and even more back in the future. But I say back in, not back in the future, but well, I think that would be very relevant in terms of astrology, since it's both the past, present, and the future. But we hope, especially at Wealthfare, that you're even more successful 10 years down the line. We can see 10 years down the line, and seeing what you've told us, we can see that it'll go very, very far. And I hope we keep getting updates from you every couple of years. Every couple of years, we can have a Wealthfare interview update with you, sir. And I want to thank you for coming onto our platform and for sharing your knowledge with us, so we can help give that financial literacy and pass it on to a lot more people that might be watching us. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much for having me here. Really, really awesome talking to you guys.